Welcome to the Terebelo podcast studio. The vote was in. Don't redo the studio. Lay more barrels. Make more whiskey. Of course, got the best equipment for recording, as you see, and I could not get it working. I'm going to give you a little show of what we have because I do not compromise on quality of delivery of goods, be it spirits and be it your podcast show and quality of content. Here we are. You see the mic. You see you know, that mixer. And I have no idea how to use it. I will learn, God willing, but next week we'll be up and rolling. Today's topic, it might be just a series of it, is what ferments to make your spirits so delicious. The sugar, all the different sugars that can be used. And, throughout the process, we're going to go wherever it goes. So, guys, if you have an idea, WhatsApp me, 551-238-7791. I love hearing from you. Comment on my LinkedIn feed, my YouTube feed, wherever you may be able to comment and give insight. I really greatly appreciate it, and it will be awesome. So, the two main sugars used to make spirits is not Mando sugar and not cotton candy. Which, by the way, is unbelievable to ferment. It's straight sugar. Just go buy it at your local Dollar Tree. It's actually on sale the holiday cotton candy at 25 cents a bag. Put it into water and chuck in some of your wife's challah baking yeast. And there you go. You got a nice beer after 2 days. You do it now. I'm sure you have a shot with some alcoholic beverage. It's going to be very sweet. There's no hops and no, beer flavoring. But hey, it's alcoholic. For the same price, stick a loaf of bread or a challah in water. Throw in some yeast, and it's pretty much what they call jailbirds yeast, except that they do it in the back of a toilet. Because it's naturally growing yeast there, they won't get yeast in jail. So the two main ingredients, two most dominant market sugars today are the barley sugar, also known as Scotch or whiskey Irish, or anything with the words whiskey from that side of the world, the old world. The next one is corn maize. Pardon me if I'm not correct, pronouncing it correctly. And that yeast, that sugar of corn is obviously processed differently than barley. It has a different profile and creates a different drink. Others that are, either today I would say the king of the spirit is the tequila from the agave blue. That's another topic, or mezcal, which is a little smokier, and all the other different types of agaves. Let's stay to bourbon for now. We'll get to the other ones. A history of bourbon in this country. It did not come over from England. I know the English take credit for the lift, which we call an elevator, but hey, some good things come from here, and that's besides for revolutions. The bourbon came about when the the American settlers went west. West at that point was Pennsylvania, Western Pennsylvania, which is Mittlers, which is where the Whiskey Rebellion of 1992 took place, which was, put down by the wonderful George Washington, our first president. It was a revolt against the taxes, something that exists till today, these obnoxious taxes. However, George Washington, in his greatness, had the laws written to the effect that any distillery, he had a distillery which you can visit in Mount Vernon's, Virginia, that any distillery smaller than his is taxed at a higher tax bracket. Today, thank God, it's the reverse. If you're smaller, the government works with you, a little lower taxes. Let's not get carried away. It's called the sin tax. For every bottle that you produce, no matter the price selling point that you're selling it at, there is a set dollar fee of production. So it's the sin tax, and it exists. In the U.S., we have the corn for distillery. It's the main sugar. It actually, in a sense, has one less step than barley in Scotland, and that's the malting process. Barley, in order to get access to that sugar, you need to break down the sugar. It has to be faked into actually starting to grow into a plant to be propagated. That sugar, so the way you do is it used to be you would put it under manure for a period of time, and the warmth of it would cause it to semi-grow, and from there you'll make your malt for distilling. Today, there's giant machines, you trick it, and obviously it's a little cleaner. I'm waiting for some distillery to call himself, Historica or something, and we do it the old way. Just don't try in the U.S. where we have the FDA. You Scottish, tell me if you could still do that and who's practicing in what backyard. The U.S. corn, you mill it. You obviously it's dried. You mill it down, and then to little pieces. You cook it up to temperature below 163, I believe. Again, altitude law and all that does play a very important role, and that will get your sugars out for fermentation. At that stage, you will have a decision to make: the yeast you want to use, the temperature you store it in, and this is across the board for all sugars. Whether you're making a tequila, whether if you're, there was actually a priest out in Idaho, I believe it was Idaho. He actually fermented milk. Again, the sugars in milk is a little more difficult for those that have a lactose intolerant or they are or a friend, understand that the sugars are different. They have to be broken down. In order to ferment milk, you have to go ahead and have specific enzymes or whatever to remove it. So he felt that milk spiritually fermented and is a whole different thing, and he doesn't have to pay taxes. The federal government got after him. Like every wonderful story for a few dollars, the priest wound up in jail. Listen, I don't really know if he wound up in jail, what happened. I'll get you the story. So once it's at that fermentation stage, you got to decide the yeast. Now, besides for the distilling process, yeast and temperature right now play an unbelievable role in then how the flavor profile will taste. Think about it like this: yeast is a live being. Okay, and the way it eats and excretes the CO2, the alcohol, it takes in the sugar and turns it into alcohol. The way it chews it or the way it consumes it is the way it will go ahead and excrete and make the taste of the what's called the beer. Yes, at this stage, it is beer. Okay, it's the same as beer. 7% alcohol, no hops, even though there are distillers that have actually taken beer, distilled it, and made it into whiskey. That's not a traditional method. So at this stage, these little bugs, they go ahead and they consume the sugar, they break it down, and they excrete alcohol. And let's think for a second, how do you feel, or how do you smell after when it's sweaty hot? Not very comfortable. I know some people over here are like, well, I always smell good, but those people, the guy near you in shul or wherever, okay? So it's the same with the yeast. You up the heat, they work harder, they sweat harder, and this now brew does not taste nearly as good as it could, and it has an off taste. So you got to do temperature control. In addition, as with everything, these yeast, there's different families and different cultures. No pun intended on the cultures. And you can take one wine yeast, and the way it excretes it will give it one flavor profile, and the way another one excretes it will give it another flavor profile. So you got so many small little factors. Remember, yeast is this little powder that you can pour in, and it will ferment it and give something uniquely different. If you would like to try this at home, go ahead and take a loaf of bread or anything, put it into a bucket of water, and put in some yeast. Make sure it's in a warm temperature place, under what is this, between 70 probably and 75, and take baker's yeast and put it in. You'll see it will ferment and it will probably taste horrible. But you'll get it. That's actually called Jailbird's beer. But you will get to where you want to go, and that's the beer to an alcohol beverage. But that will give you a concept of what we're going. Basically, anything with a sugar in it will be fermentable. Your goal is to create something that's not just fermentable and alcoholic, but actually enjoyable to consume. I've for years I've tried everything. I've anything with a sugar in it. I'm like, let's put in some yeast. And I've done pineapple juice. And some of them are good. Actually, in Europe, you can get Calvados, which is distilled apple brandy, aged unbelievable. And there's many other fruit juices that you could buy that are distilled, also unbelievable. I guess. All right. Thank you guys for listening. We'll pick up from this next week from where we are, and have a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you for listening to Grognac here at Terebelo.